Stitches Quilting, and I am here to show you how to finish up and put on your binding for the cookie sheet hot pad. And this is a hot pad that can be made wide like this, so it's much wider, or it could be made narrower. And so this is what we're going to do, narrower and longer. So we've been kind of going over how to quilt and how to assemble your cookie sheet hot pad. But what we're going to talk about today is how to bind it. So we are actually going to put on a binding, and I am going to show you guys some of my very first quilts ever bound. And I pulled them out this morning and they were really cute to look at. It's been a while since I've looked at all those quilts or even looked at the kind of stack of quilts I have. So let's get started on that. Let me just make sure that if you want hello! How are you guys? Kim, it is so good to see you. Okay, hold on. Let me make the pattern live on here for just one quick moment so that you guys can get that. All right, there we go. And let me activate it. Okay, so if you want the pattern for this, it is in the, just make a comment, send me the pattern, and that will automatically send it to you. And on YouTube, it'll be in the description of the video. So let me go ahead, and we've also got Instagram here where we are going live on. So we're going live on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And I've got to show you guys something that I designed. So I know there is so much going on, but I designed this quilt over the last couple days of watching all the news. But it is a quilt, and this is called We Are All in This Together. So I don't know if you guys want, but I'm going to make these quilt blocks. There's two different quilt blocks. There's a little people quilt block and then a little house there. And I will make those two quilt blocks free. And if you guys want to make some, then you can send them in and we can assemble a quilt that has to do with just all being in this together. And I want to show you a fun tip that we did on here, or something fun that I added is, remember the little love pocket quilt? So I designed this right here. I designed this so the window of some of these houses, if you want to add the heart into it, let me find one right here. You can add the little heart window in there if you care to. So here's one with a little heart on there. So anyways, I think I haven't published this yet, so it's not available at this moment, but I don't know, maybe I'll have it ready tomorrow or later tonight. We'll see. I've got some orders to ship and a couple other things to do, and I'm dying to sew up the blocks. So I have this little guy right here. He doesn't look, and then the house. This isn't in scale, but it has all of the instructions, and I'm anxious to sew it up myself, but I was kind of playing around with the different colors, so they're all different kinds of colors. So the pattern is called We Are All in This Together, and I think that this is a great way to show how we are unified. And if you guys want to make a group quilt, we can all pull it together, and you guys can ship me either your little people or your little house. Or maybe you want to make this quilt all yourself too. So anyways, let me know. Let me get back to where I can see your comments and everything. And I do have this muted, so that will be good. Hi Connie, it's good to see you live too. So I'm glad that you're on here. Hi Donna from Florida. Hi Tamra. Hi from, there's Jane from South Wales. I adore you, Jane. Jane sometimes messages me and shows me the things that she's making, and I tell you, her style is very similar to mine in terms of the things that remind her. And hi Lynette. It's good to see you. And Lynette emails me sometimes when there's crazy things in the Everyone Can Quilt group. Oh, let me go ahead and share this video in the Everyone Can Quilt group. Okay, let me put binding tips and tricks. Sorry guys, I'm always doing this by myself. There it is. So, you know, there's nobody here at the house, which is really nice that I can be here at the house without people interrupting me. Okay, let me set this aside, but I'm dying to work on it, okay? All right, I have 3 camera views for you guys today. We have the front camera, we have the above camera for Facebook and YouTube, And we have the sewing machine camera today, so you can see that right over here. I have to make sure I don't bump it at all because it'll go off kilter. Anyway, so let's get to what we're going to talk about today, which is binding this. So I have got tons of versions. I think that this is a great gift to give, and you guys, I'm so excited to put this little house block right here, the house block, on the end of one of these hot pads. So you can see, like, put it right here. Wouldn't that be so cute? As like, because everybody's cooking in their homes right now, and I think it would be so fun. So we're making ours narrower, like this version. Oops, gotta make sure nothing got, it's like this version that Liz Boyce sent me from Canada. So she mailed that to us, and it's definitely one that we use. Okay, my first quilts. Let me show you some of my first quilts. And then we'll get to squaring this up. Oh, there's a puppy on the quilt. Cute lady. Oh, you guys, I wish I could show you this, but she's so cute and she's so comfortable. Okay, one of my very first quilts. Let's see here. I'll try to grab them out from underneath here. She is so comfortable. That's so cute. Okay, my very, very first quilt actually got lost. And because I always had my kids take their quilts everywhere, and I'm really so sad. So this is my second quilt, and it's kind of like a little Ships Ahoy. Yeah, it's like a ship. We lived in Galveston, Texas, but you can see how my binding was. It wasn't too bad right here. I mean, that's not too bad for a binding, okay? I mean, I did pretty good, but you can see I didn't quite catch it all the way. But boy, this baby has been washed, and it's been, you know, oh my gosh. So, I mean, this, oh, lady got off my little pile. That's so nice of her. Here is another quilt. This is maybe one of the second or third quilts I made. You can see it was washed so much. It was in our family room all the time. And these were my bindings. And so we really used and abused this quilt. I kind of want to, I need to repair it. Right in there, but you can see that's what my binding looked like years ago. Wasn't very precise, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was living on an island in Galveston, Texas, and there, you know, it was a ways away, and I'm so grateful because all of these things I have. Let me see if I've got another one. This is a cute one I made, but you can see it's kind of curved right there. And it's not super pointed. So the goal is pointed. So this is another like Bargello flag quilt that I made that's got a good binding. You can see it's got a kind of a square pointy binding. And that binding is almost too pointy. That corner right there. I don't know. Anyways. But here you go. Here's some more of these pointed things. So this is a really, we should maybe do that quilt. I don't know. There's so many fun things we can do. And I'm so inspired by all of you guys and all the great things that you do. So, okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you some binding tips and tricks on this hot pad right here, which I've made for my son that's on a mission in New York. And he has got a companion that loves to cook. So I'm making one for him and one for his companion. And I'm going to ship this. So first thing we need to do is we need to square this up. So one way to get really good looking, and let me go ahead and move this to the side so I don't nail anything. So I am going to lay this out. Let's switch the camera for Facebook and YouTube. You are now on the overhead camera, right? No, you're on the sewing machine camera. There we go. We switched the camera. I'm going to get out my bigger, longer ruler right here, and let me see what you guys can see. I am now going to square this up. So I have you guys start with a 8-inch wide length, okay? So that you guys can square this up, because as you put things together, you know, things move and shift, and you know, that's just what happens. So I'm squaring up where I'm putting on the handle right there. This has got several layers. We've got the end of the handle and this part of the handle right down there. I'm going to square this up, all right, and take that off. I'm going to spin this around and bring it over here. Let me make sure you guys can still see everything on the camera. So I'm going to make sure that I'm consistent with my lines on my ruler when I'm squaring up. I'm going to follow my ruler, and I'm going to follow the lines of the pattern and perhaps the quilting. I do not want to hit that camera back there that goes onto the sewing machine. Okay, so, and I am going to make sure that this line over here is consistent with what I've been cutting so far. And then I'm going to continue to square this up. All right, so there we go. Okay, let's pull those back. All right, we've got over here on the front. Let's see here. Oh, perfect timing. Jane, are you getting ready to bind something? Or perfect timing for what time it is in South Wales. Hi, Laura from Michigan. All right, let's go ahead and bring this over. Oh, Josephine, yes, I will have to show you that flag quilt. I will have to show you the flag quilt. In fact, I'll try to post pictures, and I will try to show you the flag quilt at the end of this video. I apologize. Okay, so now we're going to clean off this side right here. All right, so that all looks good. And I used just kind of scrap fabrics or leftover fabrics, which are not scraps, they are, but okay, so do you see how nicely squared up that is? So one way that you're going to get a nice edge to your quilt is by squaring things up. Now, where's my binding strips? I cut 2 lengths of binding strips. So I'm going to show you how to combine your binding strips here. So I've got my raw edges, which this is a, I don't know what kind of fabric this is. It's a woven fabric, all right? We are going to match them up perpendicularly right there. Let me go ahead and press this real fast, but in fact, let me maybe use this side. Nope, I'm gonna have the same problem. Okay, so this is a woven fabric. It's a woven fabric because you can see the print on both sides of the fabric, all right? It's not screen printed, it's more of a woven, and it's a beautiful, beautiful print. Okay, I'm gonna set this over here. Oh dear, my, ouch! Oh, my water was leaking. Okay, I think I need to grab a quilt to kind of dab up my water. This is a 12 fabric that I put on the back of that Bargello quilt. I love 12 fabrics. Okay, sorry about that, guys. Ah, my goodness gracious. It's hard when I've got all these cameras around me. Okay, there we go. So what we are going to do, which is going to be harder to see on a woven quilt, but we are going to line this up. Let me get my smaller ruler out, which I had. I don't need my big long one anymore. Let me grab this one because the amount of space with cameras and irons and all sorts of things, we're going to just clean off these edges. Well, we're going to not worry about the edges. So let's line these up so that they're going horizontally like that. Okay, and then I'm going to just kind of make a mark. You're not really going to see my mark, but I'm going, and as I do this, it's going to kind of imprint a little line. So, but I am going to stitch this, sorry guys, from diagonally right there. I'm going to stick a pin in it. All right, here we go. Let's take this over to the sewing machine. Okay, so you can see right here, I've got just a faint line there that I went ahead and I put. I have my walking foot on because I like to bind a quilt with my walking foot on. And I used 2 battings inside this hot pad. So it is definitely thicker than a normal quilt would be if we just had 1 layer of batting. So some of us, we do use multiple layers of batting. I'm going to go ahead and trim this off at the 1/4 inch seam. So we now have this, so it's rather mitered, okay? So we cut that off and we stitched those together so it is 1 long strip, and that really went a little wonky. I'm going to restitch this. Okay, let's just do the other side. I'm sorry, you guys. Let's do that one more time. That is so funny. And I am also using, what length of binding do you use? Oh, you guys can't see me. Okay, let me see which camera went off. Okay, let me go back. Okay, there's the sewing machine. Oh, I went too far. Sorry, you guys. Okay, can you guys see my space? Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm doing too many things. There we are. The camera has come back. I apologize. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and stitch this again. All right, so we're gonna just go from corner to corner and stitch these together. All right, so let's go ahead and pull this over here, and I'm gonna just stitch these corners. You guys, I'm sorry. Got like several things happening all at once here. Oh, I see what I'm doing. How I'm making a mistake here. So let's pull that apart. Let's line that up just perfectly. And let's do our mitered edge so that we can see this. Let me turn Instagram so you guys can see the sewing machine. Okay, I'm just going to do a diagonal stitch joining these blocks, or joining these binding strips right here. Let's bring this over. Okay, here we go. Let's bring that down. Crazy. All right, so there we go. So I have opened that up, and that is one binding strip joined together. We're going to trim off the excess fabric there. So let's go ahead and bring this over. Let me trim off this triangle here. I'm going to move that little ironing pad. It's been a while since I've used the third camera. And this one that I just stitched a little wonky, we're gonna just unpick so I've got a actual binding strip. Okay, so there we go. Now we are going to press this binding strip in half. Whenever I press a binding strip in half, I go ahead and I leave myself a small little lip edge. So let's go ahead and bring this over. This is so funny. Okay, so we're gonna bring this right here, and I'm gonna bring that up. I don't have my edges meet perfectly. I'm just leaving a little hairline because I want to be able to know. Nothing's more frustrating than kind of wrangling a quilt on the sewing machine, and then all of a sudden you find out that you didn't catch both sides of the binding. So we do a double layer of binding strip, because it helps with the wear and the tear of the edges of the quilt where you have it a double binding strip. Does that make sense? But it just really helps with the wear and tear of quilts. And let me tell you, I've got some that have kind of worn through that have been really well-loved quilts in our home because, oh my gosh, it just was the way of life. It was what my kids snuggled up with to a movie. It's what I watched as a movie. We took it on picnics. We would just, we really used our quilts. I just loved them so much. And so did my kids. My kids felt so loved whenever I made things for them, and they would watch me make things for them, and that just made them feel so adored. Okay, so we have now pressed this, and I want to show you again. Can you see how you can see a tiny, I know that this is woven fabric, but you can see there's just a tiny bit of a lip edge right there, and on that lip edge, that is where we go ahead and I can tell if I've caught both sides of the binding. Okay, so now let's bring this around, and we're going to lay it on our hot pad. And maybe I should have done a contrasting fabric, but typically I use a complementary or the same, fabric that's on there. You can go ahead and put on binding clips if you want to, but this is why I wanted the sewing machine camera today. So let's go ahead and bring this over. Let me make sure that the sewing machine camera is working. It shows that it is. Okay, so I am going to bring this over here. Once again, I have my walking foot on because this is a lot of layers to work with. You can see right here how I am just have this going right there, and I'm going to use a 1/4 of an inch seam. So for this quilt, I am actually, I've got a thermo layer in here, and I am using a 2.5 inch binding strip that's folded in half. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and bring this over. And I'm also going through several more layers by adding this handle to it. So I'm definitely using my walking foot as I am attaching all these things together. So let's go ahead and bring this up. And I usually start about in the middle of a length of the quilt. So I started kind of in the middle of the pattern there. All right, we're going to bring this down, and I am going to stop. Let me show you on here. I'm going to stop 1/4 of an inch, about right there, 1/4 of an inch from this edge of the hot pad to this edge of the hot pad. So I'm going to stop right about there, and then I'm going to pivot and turn. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to bring this down, and I can see that I'm catching both layers of that because I have kind of just lightly staggered my edge. Okay, I think I'm about 1/4 of an inch right there. All right, we're going to go ahead and pull that up. And I'm going to now take this off of the sewing machine. I'm going to pull back my fabric at a 45-degree angle. So I'm going to fold it back up there. I'm going to finger press this like it's a present. Okay, I'm going to finger press that back. But you can see I'm about 1/4 inch from the edge. Let's lay that back down. I'm going to finger press this all the way, just right like that. And then I'm going to flip this back down as if I'm wrapping a present. And I'm going to finger press that again. I'm going to lay this back down under my needle. But once again, I'm going to start about 1/4 of an inch of the binding from both of the raw edges there, from the top edge and over here. So I'm going to start stitching about right here. Okay, so let's lay this back under the sewing machine. I'm going to put my needle down in the spot that I would like it. I'm going to stitch this on using about 1/4 of an inch seam. I've got my walking foot on, and because I'm going through so many layers, once again, I'm going to only stitch. I'm not going to stitch off the edge. I'm going to only stitch about 1/4 of an inch. It's approximate, okay? 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the quilt. All right, if you want to, you could hold it there in place. Let's pull it back up. You can hold it there in place. You don't necessarily have to back stitch or anything like that, or stay your stitch. I'm going to once again fold this up. Okay, I'm going to fold this up, and you can see I'm about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to fold it up in a diagonal fashion, and then I'm going to fold it back down. All right, so it's like we're making a present. You can feel the ridge of where that fold is. And that's why we're going to stick our needle in about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. We're trying to stick the needle in where that fold is of that fabric. Okay, let's take this back in here. I'm pretty sure I know where I'm going. Put my needle down, and I'm going to pivot this around. And we're going to go ahead and just bring oh, you guys, I forgot to curve the edges. It's okay, I'm too excited. It's going to curve the edge of this hot pad. Darn it. It's okay. Jake will have a nice squared off hot pad. Oh well. But what I would normally do, could curve one edge, that probably wouldn't look good. But what I would normally do is just take this, mark my quilt, and trim off that excess fabric, lay this over on this edge, mark this, and trim off that excess fabric. Okay? So, but I forgot to do that. It's okay. When you're on live camera, it's hard to think of everything that you need to do. Okay, so let's go ahead and go there. Let's bring this down. I still have his companions to finish stitching and bind that one too. And I'm hoping I'm going to get these shipped today. I have so many things I want to do. I can't even tell you. Wonder if I'll need one more strip. Okay, we're going to bring this down. and bring it all the way down. You know what? Actually, this is really good. I didn't square this off or curve it because then you wouldn't know how to do the corners. So actually, that's smart. Okay, so Felicia, you're working on a baby quilt and you're at the binding part. You guys, I love to do the bindings. The binding is so fun for me. It's like the moment that you seal up. Oop, I'm out of thread. Hold on. My thread must have broken. My top thread. But I love binding quilts. You need to think about it. Do not be overwhelmed by binding a quilt. All you're doing is you're going to sew around the circumference of the quilt 2 times. 1 time if you're going to hand bind the backing. Okay, I gotta thread the needle here. There we go. Nope, I didn't do it. Okay, let's try again. So you're really just going to, if you're gonna hand bind it around the back, which is what I prefer to do, is hand binding with my quilts. When I quilted in my earlier days, okay, sorry, you guys, I'm feeling impaired. Okay, I've got it. Let me lick that just a tiny bit. Okay, here we go. All right, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm all fingers. I can't see that little tiny hole. Okay, is it in? Oh my gosh, you guys, this is gonna make me crazy. That is so funny. Okay, here we go. Go on in. Go on in. Please, please, please. Oh my gosh. Hey, little thread, you're on live camera. Okay, got it. All right, there we go. Sorry, guys. My little needle threader, the little hook kind of is crooked right now. I need to straighten it out. Let me make sure that that is not crooked. Okay, there we go. All right, so let's bring this down. So yeah, it's, okay. It is, I'm actually really glad I did not round off these corners. Okay, that's really awesome. And sometimes I hold it in place. Okay, I don't back stitch, I just hold it in place, all right? So let's once again bring this up at a diagonal, finger press this down, and then you bring it down this way. And I just think it's so fun because you're going to have everything closed up really soon. And if you machine bind both the front and the back, it's gonna go fast, but I love hand binding a quilt. It's just such a beautiful time to sit outside or, you know, to just, you know, go and enjoy the outdoors as you're hand binding a quilt, or to curl up at night on your bed with a quilt and go ahead and please tell me that that binding is enough. It is just barely enough. Okay, let's go ahead and bring this over. Okay, now we're coming over to the closing part, and I'll show you how to do that too. We're gonna go ahead and bring this over. So I've just finished all 4 sides of this, but we're going to now close it properly, and I will show you how to do that. All right, let's go ahead and pull that up. Okay, so now we have an opening. Let's go back to the overhead camera. So now we are going to join our, now we are going to join these 2 things right here. I am going to use another piece of binding that is the same width of this, all right? Because I cut mine 2.5 inches. So whatever you cut your piece of binding at is what you're going to use right here, all right? And I'm going to want to go ahead and bring these 2 together, and I'm going to want to just line these up ever so right, and I'm going to use this to measure what I am doing as my width in between, all right? So we're gonna bring this one right down right here, and we are going to bring this right here. We're going to fold these back and just give it a little bit of a finger press. And I know that I've got my opening right in there. So we're gonna just finger press that ever so slightly. We're going to pick this up and turn this. And you don't have to join your binding like this. So I can see where my finger press is. So I'm going to bring this over, and I'm going to pull this in and push this downward. I'm matching my finger press of where that was. And let's bring this over. I'm going to stick a needle in it, and then I'm going to bring it over to my sewing machine. And I am actually going to kind of follow that line. Okay, just one moment. Sorry, kind of let loose of, so we're going to go ahead and fold these back. Gosh, I should just kind of just go with that one angle there, but that would be not real helpful for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to finger press this. I'm going to bring these back up, and I'm going to pin it right where my finger press is. Then I'm going to take these fabrics at an angle, match these up. I'm going to unpick just a tiny bit right here so I have a little bit more of an opening to manage this. So you probably like, I usually like, well, for a 2.5 inch binding, maybe leave about 6 inches open there. Okay, you're going to go ahead and lay these down. Let me make this a little bit more open for this. I apologize. It's such a cute little small hot pad. It's so adorable. And we're going to just flip this around. Oh, you can't see. It didn't change. Oh my gosh. You guys, did the camera change? Hold on. Let's go over here. Okay, here we go. Change the camera view. Yes, you guys are right. Okay, let's go over here. Let's see if this, yeah, that camera view should be doing just fine. There we go. We're on the camera view that we want. Okay, so I've matched this up. Let me just show you this one more time. You guys, I'm so sorry. So I've got these laid out here. I opened up my binding. Usually about 6 inches is a good length to have as you're bringing these two together and matching your bindings. You want to lay them down here, kind of kiss them right up to each other. Okay. I am measuring where my 1/4 inch seam is, my width of my binding length right here. I'm going to now pin where my finger pressing are and match these two together. I need to do a really fast video on just this very, very technique. Okay, let's open this all the way up like that. And we are going to stitch this baby. Let's go ahead and put another, stick another pin into it. And we are going to stitch this closed. Here we go. Let me open that up just slightly more. Kind of feel like that's stretched a little bit. Okay, here we go. Okay, I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and I'm going to just stitch this right straight down. So let me not change cameras right now. And it's a little awkward when you pull this over. There's different ways to finish a binding. But as you pull it over, it does feel like weird. So I would leave a 6 to an 8 inch opening in order to join your binding strips. Okay, let's bring that on over and here we go. Going to line this up. So it's lining up with the fabric. So I've got that nice. It's a little bunched over here, but it's going to be fine. Going to pull this in here and bring that up. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure that we've got this right. And we're going to stretch that out. Bring that over. Oh my goodness. Okay. I have like a little bit of some bulk in there. I went the wrong way. That cut, you guys, let me cut this. You guys, what a funny, where's my little seam ripper? Oh, it fell on the floor. Hold on. I stitched the wrong angle. That pre-cut angle got me off guard. Here we go. Going to lay these together. That is so funny. Put these back out. Here I am binding these right here. Okay, I've got this. I'm going to match these up, lift these together. Let me go ahead and put a pin in there and we are going to open this up and stitch this together. Okay. That is so odd that that did not work. Okay, let me go ahead and try this one more time, you guys. I apologize. I think I got these reversed. I am really worried about this, you guys. Let me see here. Yeah, now. Okay, let's pull this apart one more time. Oh my gosh, you guys. Let me go ahead and lay this down, and I'm stitching the wrong angle. I shouldn't have pre-cut my little diagonal flips. Okay, you guys. Oh my gosh. We're gonna have to like remove this video. That is so funny. Can anybody see? You can also share it and it will show up on your page. Okay, here we go. We're going right here, and I am going to stitch these. You know what? I have actually messed up my little binding. So we are going to go ahead and just do this a little bit differently. Let's go ahead and fold over our raw edge right here. You guys, I'm sorry. But we're going to go ahead and do this right here. So I'm going to slip my binding inside of this, right like that, because I cut that binding before. I probably should have. So we're going to tuck that binding inside each other. You can see I quite don't have that reach. So this is an alternative method to how you can do, and I'm going to trim off some of this fabric because you don't want too much bulk in your bindings. Let's trim off a little bit of this edge folded. So we're folding over this edge so we don't have a raw edge that's exposed. We're going to tuck this binding inside of this binding. All right. I am sorry that I didn't have that matched up. That is, I did those angles and that just did not come out right. But this is a good way to know how to do your bindings too. Okay, I apologize. I'm gonna have to do another binding video. That is so funny. This is a weird video for today. I have my hot water on the iron. Okay, so you can see here a spill on me. I've like lost different things. So you can see right here, I've got my binding right here, and I have just like a little bit of a fold. And this I can slip stitch if I want to later. Okay, let's go ahead and let's machine stitch this binding down. I love to hand stitch my bindings, but I am going to give you guys some tips on machine stitching your binding down. So let's go ahead and pull this around. Let's go about right at this point where we started the binding. I'm going to trim off this extra one. So what we did is we finished off this binding by folding it over and tucking the other binding in. So you can see this is like a tuck and fold. So if you see this, I can actually slip this inside there. So if you are a beginning quilter, this is a great way to go. So you're not overwhelmed, all right? Now, what I'm going to do is normally I would hand stitch this down, but I am going to show you guys how to do, this is fun to see the same mistakes I make. Liz, this is hysterical. What a hoot this is today. Okay, so now I'm going to stitch this back down. Let's make sure the camera works for the sewing machine, because this is important to actually see the stitching. Yes, Melody, the joys of live recording. It's fine. Thank you. I know you guys are all so sweet. You guys are all so very, very kind. Okay, so now what we're going to do, I can see that you guys can see my camera view. So I am going to flip this around. I'm going to start over here because it's easier to see where I stitched, because my quilting is going straight down this line. I hope you can see this okay. You can see where my quilting is, but that is also where I joined the binding. The goal of wrapping your binding around to have a machine finish with your sewing machine is you're going to want to pretty much stitch exactly where you stitched your first binding on. Does that make sense? All right, so that's the trick to getting a good machine binding that's on the front and back. Personally, I love to hand quilt my bindings on. When I was younger, all of my quilts were really made for my kids, and I really believed in machine quilting the binding down on the front and the back because, so you can see here, I'm wanting to quilt just exactly where I just stitched that binding on. So when you stitch it like this, then your front stitching is pretty much going to be stitched in the ditch, okay? So as we pull this around, we're wanting to stitch exactly where we stitched prior. If you're hand stitching it, you're just gonna wrap that around and bring it over. Now, either way works, but I really wanted my kids' quilt, so I machine quilted a lot of bindings because I wanted my kids' quilts to kind of, and I know this might disturb some of you guys, but I wanted my kids' quilts to be quilts that they had no matter, like when they were sick. And if they threw up on the quilt, I didn't want to worry about, say a binding coming out from washing it so much. And let me tell you, we washed those quilts and they used them and they're still in good condition. You can see some of mine that are like maybe 27 years old over there. I'm trimming off some of my threads. But that did get a bit overused. But they certainly stayed. Okay, now I'm going to continue this, but once again, I'm going to stop at about 1/4 inch from the side, all right? I'm going to fold this over so it's like a present and come on over. So once again, you're trying to stitch pretty much where you stitched before, okay? Okay, now I'm keeping my needle down. My needle is completely down, but I'm going to pivot this. So I want to show you. Here's what this looks like. The lighting isn't really super good just right here. Let me move this just slightly over. I don't have a really good light that comes over here. But you can see where I'm stitching this down, it's pretty much buried and in the stitch in the ditch. And I mean, I like contrasting bindings, but often I am matching the binding. So my goal is to stitch right where that stitch line is where I joined it. And this is a very good place to see this. Let me make sure you guys can still see. But see, that is my binding stitching line. So I'm pretty much wanting, if I stitch exactly on that line, then it's going to be a stitch in the ditch look on the front. And you're not going to be able to tell the difference. I mean, you could see on the back that it was machine bound, but really, maybe for a hot pad that you're using, once again, I want to pivot this, whoops, and I want to pull that in. I'm going to bring this out and fold in the corner. I'm going to bring this back up, bring my needle down, and go ahead and do the same thing right here. So maybe for a hot pad, having a machine done binding is a great activity. Since this is something that's going to be washed an awful lot, and I would worry about if maybe one stitch of my hand binding came loose, maybe the whole thing would kind of unravel off. So when I had my little kids, but I actually haven't had any of my hand bindings come apart through all these years. I mean, I don't know, but okay, so we're gonna go ahead and once again, I'm leaving these raw edges. This is where we folded this. So you can fold your binding and slip it in. So if you are new to quilting, maybe this is a good mistake I made today. To show you guys, if you're new to quilting, this is a great way to have your bindings come in, okay? It's how I did all of mine way back in the day. All of them I did this way. And let me tell you, those quilts have stayed. My children cherish those quilts. It's so fun. It was really fun because the quilts were all kind of like kid size or lap quilt size. And they would have sleepovers and their friends would use them. And it was cute because I'd always go down and check to see if all the kids were asleep, if anyone slept over. And it was cute because as those boys got bigger, you'd have to use like 2 of those little kid quilts to cover their body. But boy, they sure loved those quilts and all their friends. It's just darling. The memories of just raising a family with gobs and gobs of quilts. Okay, so we're going to bring this around. Go ahead and bring this over. And it's been such a lovely hobby to have. And one that's really enlarged my life and my family's lives. Okay, once again, I'm almost done here. We're going to just fold this up like a present. I'm going to bring this over and up. I'm not going to come all the way to the edge. I'm going to let that feed in there. This is definitely a time when you're using a hot pad to keep your walking foot on, because it's not a struggle at all to feed this through. So once again, I'm trying to stitch right on top of where I first found that quilt. I will turn this over and show you guys all of the, what a funny video, you guys. I forgot to fold that over. We'll pull that up, tip that back, and we're gonna close this up. So you guys, it was just 2 times around this quilt. This is really my most favorite thing to do in quilting. Oh, you guys, I just broke my needle. Oh my goodness gracious. That is so funny. Okay, I broke my needle, and if I do not have my screwdriver, oh my goodness, thank goodness I have my screwdriver. Okay, we're gonna pull this out though, and you guys can see what this looks like. I only have maybe 10 inches to finish here. Okay, but that's okay. We do that sometimes when we're doing a binding. You break a needle, especially when you're going through so many layers. It's good to have a denim needle in, a sharp needle in when you're trying to go through this many layers of batting and everything else. Okay, let me bring this over for you. Let's go back to the overhead. Yes, quilts are heirlooms to love and use. Some I don't want them to use as much. I mean, I do have a couple. Let's see if it goes to the front camera. Let me go over. Are we on the front camera? Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to show you this, and I'm not going to worry that I have this last little section to do. I'm not going to make you guys wait. Okay, it's on the front camera. I'm going to show you this. So let's look at this. You can see where I machine quilted this, and the stitching on the front, it is just pretty much stitched in the ditch, or it might wave a few little times back and forth, but you can see how good that looks. Let's look at the back. So you can see how that comes up. We've got a nice square corner. That's the goal. And the goal is you want your binding to just be as narrow as it can be. Mary, you love this video. It's like normal life. Great lessons and skills for many to learn. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, well, we'll see. It's too fun. Okay, so you can see how all of that looks. Doesn't it look beautiful? Okay, so here we have our hot pad. And this is going to go in the mail to Jake today, but that definitely will pull out a cookie sheet or a casserole dish. And this is such a wonderful gift to give to somebody that you can go ahead and share as a gift with all of the cooking that's going on in people's lives. I just absolutely love this hot pad. I really do. And I treasure the things that people give me as gifts. But, you guys, I don't want to still do this. Oh, it's still on the machine camera. Oh my gosh. Holy crud-a-moly. Ah. Let's see here. Let's move it over. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's make sure that that goes back to the front camera. Okay, there I am. We are going to have to delete this video, you guys. Holy crud. Okay, so you can see how this looks. I don't even know what I showed you and what I didn't show you. That is so fascinating. Okay, but you can see how that looks on the front, and you can see how that looks on the back right there. Doesn't that look great? And to tell you the truth, machine binding might be the right thing to do for a hot pad. And look at that pretty quilting. I am going to trim off all my threads. I'm going to get all this stuff done. But wouldn't it be so darling to put one of these little houses on the panel right here of your hot pad? And even put the little heart in the quilt. So I'm going to have this pattern available probably tomorrow. Yeah, I think tomorrow. We'll expect tomorrow. I will publish this pattern for you guys so you guys have this blocks. If you guys want to, you can go ahead and make a little person and make a little house, ship it to me, and I will assemble a quilt together that is ours. We are all in this together quilt, okay? We will do, yeah, let's have a redo, Lynette. I agree. Maybe I'll have to do another one. So much fun this evening. Please don't delete. Jane. Okay, I'll keep it up there for a little while. But I will do another binding video for you guys. Okay, I promise. And I promise on Wednesday when I go live. Okay, we can't get any phone calls. When I go live on Wednesday. That is just so funny. But look, this quilt pattern is going to be so darling. So, but I thought it could be a community quilt along, kind of like you guys ship me all of the little quilt blocks. Just make one house and one person out of your own scraps. And then we can make it we're all in this together, and maybe we can send it to a quilt show to display at some point in time as like our little adventure with all of the things going on in the world today. So I think it's important that we remember that we are in this all together. And thank goodness, yeah, Liz, I'll do the one with the curves. Good point. How big are they? The blocks are 4.5 by 6.5 inches. So they finish at 4 by 6. So they're really little. This little one right here. Thanks, Deanna, for watching me and that like you're entertained by my live video today. Yes, please follow. Yes, you will see more adventures with Deanna. That is for sure, Felicia. You are so sweet. Thank you for all of the love and the encouragement and support. I really do have fun with you guys. Okay, so but there is a free pattern for this. In the pattern, it looks like this quilt pad right here. It comes as narrow or wide and longer. So if you guys want the pattern on Facebook, just request that. I will post a picture of this on Stitches Quilting and the Everyone Can Quilt group, and I will, give you guys more information, and then I will get this ready for you guys. So anyways, we will see you guys a little bit later. Love you guys so much. I'm going to end the live video, and hopefully I don't have any other weird things happen to me today. But it's okay. That's just the way it rolls, right? We are all in this together, you guys. Don't forget. And let's keep making and creating and post some beautiful things for me to see, so I can see the beautiful things you guys are making. So love you guys. I'll see you a little bit later. Have fun.